So you did it. You bought your dream home. You've got the keys, the deed has your name on it. But what if I told you that you might not be the only one with legal rights to that property? Yep. Lurking in the public records, there could be a whole hidden history of claims that actually dictate what you can and can't do. Today we're going to pull back the curtain on this often overlooked world of encumbrances and liens.
It's a pretty startling question to think about, isn't it? You've signed all the papers, you've moved in, but you might not be the only one with a legal interest in your own property. This is such a crucial concept for any homeowner or potential buyer in California to get their head around. So, who are these other mystery parties? Well, let's find out.
The big umbrella term for all of this is an encumbrance. The easiest way to think about it is like finding out your new home comes with some pre-existing strings attached. These are legal claims or restrictions that don't stop you from owning the place, but boy, they can limit how you use it or even put a financial claim right on it.
So we can basically split encumbrances into two main categories. First up, let's talk about the physical ones. Now, these aren't about money. They're all about the physical condition or the actual use of the land itself. Who can step on it, what you can build on it, and where your property line really is.
Okay, probably the most common physical encumbrance you'll run into is something called an easement. Here's the best way to picture it. An easement is like giving your neighbor a key to your side gate so they can get to their backyard. You're not giving them the key to your front door. They just have a right to use a specific part of your land for a very specific reason, but they definitely don't own it.
And of course, in the language of the law, these two properties have special names. The property that gets the benefit, say the one using that shared driveway, is called the dominant tenement. Makes sense, right? It's dominant. The property that's burdened by this, the one that has to serve the other, is the servient tenement. One benefits, the other serves. Simple as that.
You have almost certainly dealt with this next type of easement, even if you had no idea what it was called. It's an easement in gross, and it's typically held by utility companies. It gives them the right to come onto your land to maintain things like power lines or water pipes. It's a right that belongs to the company, not to a neighbor, but it's still an encumbrance on your land.
Next up are restrictions, and these are all about what you can and can't do. You've got your private restrictions, or CC&Rs. Those are the neighborhood rules from an HOA, like what color you're allowed to paint your house. And then you have public restrictions, which are the city rules, like zoning laws, which decide if your land can be used for a home, a business, or maybe a factory.
And then we have the classic neighbor dispute, the encroachment. This is what happens when your neighbor's fence or their shed or even a part of their house is actually built on your land. If it's a wrongful encroachment, you can sue for damages, and a court might even order them to tear it down. It's a very clear, very physical encumbrance on your property. Okay, let's switch gears, because not all encumbrances are about fences and driveways. Some are all about money. We're moving away from physical limitations and into the world of financial claims. These are debts that get attached directly to your property's title, and these are known as liens.
The best way to think of a lien is like a financial sticky note slapped right onto your property's title. It's a public notice for the whole world to see, and it sends a really clear message. The owner of this property owes someone money, and this house is the security for that debt.
So the crucial takeaway here is that a lien makes your property collateral. The person or company who placed that lien, the creditor, they now have a legal claim on your property until that debt is paid off. It's a really powerful tool to make sure people pay what they owe.
Liens basically come in two main flavors. A voluntary lien is when you actually agree to, like the mortgage you took out to buy the house in the first place. But an involuntary lien, well, that's one that gets placed on your property without your consent, usually because you failed to pay something, like your property taxes or a court judgment.
And here is one that catches so many people completely by surprise, the mechanic's lien. If a contractor or a supplier does work on a property and doesn't get paid for it, they can legally place a lien on that property. This means if you buy a house that was just remodeled, you could end up inheriting a lien from an unpaid plumber you have never even met.
So what happens if a lien isn't paid? This is where things get really serious. A lien isn't just a passive little note. It's an active claim that can be enforced, and the consequences can be severe. I'm talking it can even lead to the forced sale of your home. So how does a simple debt escalate all the way to a forced sale? Well, it's a step-by-step legal process. It starts with a public notice called a lis pendens, which signals a lawsuit. If the court sides with the creditor, it issues a judgment.
From there, the court can legally attach or seize the property, and that leads to the final drastic step, an execution sale, where your home is auctioned off to pay the debt.
Let's just zoom in on that first step for a second. Lis pendens, it's Latin for suit pending. As soon as this notice is filed with the county, it becomes this massive red flag for any potential buyers or lenders. It effectively freezes any attempts to sell or refinance the property until that lawsuit is totally resolved.
The judgment? This is the real turning point. This is the court's official, final decision that says, yes, the creditor's claim is valid. Once that judgment is issued, the lien becomes this incredibly powerful, legally enforceable tool for collecting that debt. And this right here is the ultimate consequence. If the debt still isn't paid, the court can order an execution sale. The sheriff auctions off the property to the highest bidder, and that winning bidder gets what's called a sheriff's deed, becoming the new owner. The original homeowner is forced out, and the money from the sale is used to finally pay the creditor.
Now, I know that sounds absolutely terrifying, but the story doesn't end there. California law actually understands that a person's home is their castle, and it provides a really powerful legal shield to protect homeowners from losing everything.
And that shield is called the homestead exemption. This is such a critical piece of legislation. It's designed specifically to protect a homeowner's primary residence from being seized and sold to satisfy the claims of certain types of unsecured creditors.
So, by officially filing what's called a declared homestead, you're basically putting a legal force field around a portion of your home's equity. Now, it won't protect you from your mortgage lender or from property tax bills, but it does shield you from a lot of other judgment creditors, like from credit card debt or medical bills.
So how much protection are we really talking about here? For certain qualifying folks, like someone over 55 with a limited income, the exemption can be as high as $125,000. And what that means is, in a forced sale, the first $125,000 of equity is protected. It must be paid to the homeowner before the creditor gets a single dime. So, from a neighbor's fence to a contractor's unpaid bill, a property's title can tell a really complex story. Understanding encumbrances is all about uncovering that story before you commit. It leaves us with a critical question for any potential buyer. Before you sign on that dotted line, what hidden stories does your future property hold? Because being proactive is your absolute best defense.